Hi, our guest today is Mike Visconti, who's running for the seat open for the Milford Board of Selectmen on April 7th. Welcome, Michael.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here today.
So I guess the first question is, why are you running for selectman?
Well, I am running for selectman because I believe that I can do a good job and I can represent the taxpayers of Milford in a way that they should be represented. Decisions should be made with the taxpayers in mind. No special interest group, no individual person. The taxpayers have to be kept at the forefront when decisions are made, and I believe I can do that well. I'm a lifelong resident of Milford. I've seen Milford grow. I've seen the troubles Milford has gone through. But I've seen the ups and the downs. I believe I can do a good job on the Board of Selectmen. I know that I will add a balance to the board which has been missing for a lot of years. I am a conservative spender, and my decisions will be based on important issues and important things like financially, how will this affect the taxpayers of Milford? That's what the selectmen are there to represent the taxpayers, and that's what I will do.
And what skill set? I mean, what in your background? What do you?
I have been in. I started out my career after college in construction. Mm-hmm. I've done every phase of construction, including laboring when I was a young kid. I've been a superintendent. I left after becoming project manager, project planner, involved in engineering large commercial projects. I am a manager of people. I'm a planner. I am very detail-oriented, and I learned all that in my 30-odd year career in construction, property management. I am very budget-oriented. I have prepared and administered numerous multi-million-dollar budgets for many different organizations, and so I know everything there is to know about budgeting and how it should be done. My first exposure to budgeting came at a very young age. I believe I was in elementary school when I was given a budget of 50 cents. I could spend that 50 cents however I liked, but that's what I was getting, 50 cents. Make it work. If I wanted to go to the movies, I could go to the movies. If I had enough left over, if I budgeted properly, I could go down to my youth center, which at that time was the town park and the playground area, where they had arts and crafts directors, and you could do different little arts and crafts. Big thing at that time was weaving GIMP. So with my 50 cents, divide it up. If you spend it on GIMP and you don't have enough to go to the show, or go to the show and buy a box of Good and Plenty at the show, don't come back for more money. Now, I did try negotiating that budget once, and to my surprise, I was able to get the budget changed. I then got 25 cents to spend. We need to get the budget under wraps. We need to instill and inspire strongly our Finance Commission to stand their ground, man up. If they ask for a 0% increase, then demand a 0% increase. And when the department heads come back whining, oh, but you know, we're going to lose this, we're going to lose that. No, we're not going to lose anything. You absorb those costs in the rest of your budget. Make it work. You're a highly paid, well-compensated department head. Make it work. That is my philosophy with regards to budgeting.
Now, with the municipal budget being roughly 80 or so % salary, if there's only two ways really to lower the budget. One is not to give out raises, and the other is to hold the line on spending for things you buy. But if the prices of those items are going up, holding the line on spending means you can only buy less of them, like road materials.
Well, you say not to give out raises. No, I'm not entirely in agreement with that. What I will agree with is not to give out excessive raises. And by excessive, I mean anything exceeding inflation or what our seniors, who are in some cases living off of a $500-800 Social Security check,
Right.
and getting huge raises in that amount every year to the tune of 1.2%, 1.3%, and I think 1.5 was the most recent one over the last 3 or 4 years. Going back 5-10 years, the average is around 1.3, 1.2.
There was only 1 year where I think it was a 3% raise, and that was a federal election year.
And that was a while back. And
Right.
how can we ask our taxpayers that are struggling, our seniors, you know, we can talk about helping the seniors
Right.
and looking out for the seniors all we want. We need to do something for the seniors, not just talk about doing it.
Okay.
How can we ask our seniors who are getting a 1.2, 1.3% increase in their Social Security check to fund excessive raises for town employees? I cannot do that.
Okay.
I will not do that.
Now, who has gotten an excessive raise? Most of the rate increases have been in the 1-2% range the last couple of years.
Well, you're putting me in a position where I'm going to where I don't want to mention people, but in the last 3 to 5 years, 3 of the highest paid municipal employees in this town received 10% raises. I fail to see how that is fair, once again, to our seniors and our veterans. I don't want to leave them out.
Okay.
And the other group
Right.
I don't want to leave out is our next generation coming up, who would like to make Milford their home, buy a home here. But with taxes soaring through the roof in this town, they're unable to do that. Now, I'm not one to make categorical statements. You've heard them all. Oh, the Milford taxpayers have it great here. They have it great. They don't know how lucky they are. I won't make categorical statements like that. I deal in facts. So let's look at some facts. In the 10, 11 years following 2003, the average residential tax bill in Milford, now I'm not talking tax rate because the tax
Right.
rate is irrelevant. It's the result of a simple calculation using a levy and assessed value. Let's look at what actually comes out of your pocket, the cash. In those 10 years, the average residential tax bill has increased 50%. That's 50. For the same period of time, inflation has increased 30%. Right then and there, we're behind, the taxpayers are behind the 8 ball. Okay, so now taxes increased 50%, inflation only 30%. Now we've got the taxpayer on the ground. So let's do this. Now let's kick the taxpayer, okay? Property values for the same period of time have plummeted 20%. So not only are they losing it up here with their taxes, but they're also losing it with their property values. Tell me how Milford taxpayers have it great here.
Okay. How do you get the town meeting members who are responsible for the spending, when all is said and done, they're the ones who vote on the spending package? How do you get all the other town meeting members to agree with you?
Town meeting members, yes, do vote and appropriate the money and have the final say, but the selectmen set the tone for the spending. And the tone they set is generally followed and swallowed up by the town meeting members. The tone I will set will be far different from the tone you've been hearing over the last 10, 12 years. It's all up here.
What's the biggest issue that you will go after if you're elected? The first thing on your hit parade.
Okay, well, there are some issues in town, but my feeling is the big issues are important, but it's the weekly or bi-weekly votes that are the threads that weave the fabric of this town. Those weekly votes are as important as any large issue vote that comes across the table. Large issues, one that you know has been in everybody's mind for a number of years now. Illegal immigration, let's talk about that. How can we get a handle on this illegal immigration? It's affecting our schools, it's affecting our businesses, it's affecting our safety, as we all know, and I won't bring that up. Everybody knows enough about
Right.
that. I don't need to bring that up. We need to, and if I am elected, I will try to convince my fellow board members to, and I've said this before, people have heard this, to form a committee. We form committees for everything. Let's form a committee to see how we can move this table around. Instead of doing that, let's form a committee that can do this town some good. Form a committee that can look into how we can make Milford less attractive to illegal immigrants. Now, people are going to say, oh, well, you know, it's a federal issue and all that baloney, okay? I know it's a federal issue, but there has to be ways that we can make Milford less attractive to attracting illegal immigrants. Now, I don't know how we do that. That's why we should have a committee. Now, if the committee comes back and says, look, we've looked into everything, there's really no way that we can legally do this, fine, all well and good. But they may come back and say, look, why don't we try this? This other town has done this, or they have this, and it seems to ward off legally illegal immigrants. Let's try it. Maybe, just maybe, we can save another life.
Okay.
You know, we have the stormwater runoff issue that's looming over our heads.
Yes.
Could be a very expensive proposition. We all know that. We're working on it now. The town is working on it now. We have, and I've said this before, an extremely capable town engineer. I've worked with many town and city engineers. I've done engineering myself. I've dealt with these organizations that our town engineer is now having to deal with. I know how complicated it is. I know all the paperwork. I know all about that stuff. As far as I'm concerned, our town engineer, Ms. Reese, is doing a fantastic job, and we could not be in better hands. It's a problem. We need to get our arms wrapped around it and get it finished off. But getting back to the runoff, and I have also said this before, 15, 16 years ago when I was on the zoning board, there was an application for a major development in Milford. A huge portion of that development included large amounts of pervious area, grass, lawns, fields, and the like. The application was ultimately withdrawn, but had it not been withdrawn, one of the conditions that I was pushing for to be included, if it was approved, was that any and all fertilizers used on any of those fields or grass areas had to be phosphorus-free. Now, this is 15 years ago, long before a lot of people had even heard of the P word, phosphorus, okay? Long before they even heard of it. I am very in tune with the issue we have. I attempted, I could say as far back as 15, 16 years ago, to help curb and mitigate the situation.
Well, Mike, are you in favor of suing the EPA to block them from imposing these laws? I mean, a lot of people have said this amounts to just a tax on rain. When you think about it, the rain falls from the sky, and what they really want to do is make people with bigger roofs and bigger parking lots pay lots of money for rain hitting the ground.
I believe there's a 2-acre cutoff, inclusive of paved areas and roof impervious areas, rainwater collection areas, if you will.
Right.
So, you know, I am in favor of lawsuits, regardless of what it entails, only as a last resort.
So how would you fight the EPA mandate?
Well, how would I don't know how I would fight it. I mean, we need to work, obviously, with them to try to figure this out, either to either have some sort of, reach some sort of median level here, or receive some sort of extension where we can show that, look, here are the things we are doing, here are the things we will do to help solve this phosphorus issue in our, you know, lakes and rivers.
Okay.
There are, look, lawsuits are expensive.
Yes, they are.
Regardless of who wins, lawsuits are expensive. Only as a last resort should we resort to lawsuits.
In my view, only one category of people win in lawsuits, the lawyers.
And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't win.
Right. You talked about immigration, you talked about the stormwater. Do you see any other, and taxes, obviously, do you see any larger issues looming in the near future?
Well, you know, we still have somewhere, and I'm not sure where, the issue of a bypass road in Milford. How many years have we been talking about that? I'm not sure what state it's in now, but it's something that really needs to be concluded.
I think the town's looking for somebody else to pay for it.
Right.
I believe
And that's where
I believe we're waiting for some sort of
That's
funding,
where I
yes.
think it sits. Although the bike path now follows the route it would take. The last piece of the bike path that was made,
in some part.
it tracks along where it would go, so that's,
Think of what having look what the bypass road did for Marlboro. Just look at what it did for Marlboro, getting around Route 20, which is Main Street in Marlboro.
it's only about 2 blocks long there.
It's not long at all, but it goes
Right.
right around, gets you through all that mess. If you want to go downtown Marlboro, it's a piece of cake to do it. If you don't, it's a piece of cake to go around. It would help this town out and the businesses in this town, because keep in mind, we have to support the businesses in this town also, not just the residential taxpayers. It would help them out tremendously.
Do you have any, speaking of businesses on Main Street, do you have any idea on how to revitalize Main Street?
Well, I've said this before also. We need to attract spenders, people who have disposable income to the downtown area. Now, we'll never bring it back to the way it was in the 60s and 70s. We know that. In the 50s, we'll never do that. But we can get halfway there, 3/4 of the way there. People won't go downtown because of the deals. They feel that they get a better deal, a better selection in what people refer to as big box stores or chain store
Right.
businesses. And you know what? They can. Our business owners do a good job, but they need to be creative in attracting people who want to spend money to their stores. I know it's hard. It's not easy. It's easy to sit here and say it, but it's not easy to do it. But it can be done.
You're starting to get some small, specialized things on Main Street that are drawing people. Like there's 2 Asian restaurants that are drawing people. I think the restaurant in the Flatiron Building, the 89 Central, is
Great place.
specialized. And
Great place.
he's about to build sort of a function room on the 1st floor
Right, he's gonna move
that I
upstairs.
think will,
Right.
just a function room, not the restaurant will still be in the basement. But little specialty stores. Personally, my own theory is that when they tore the State Theater down, people stopped having a reason to come downtown.
Well, not entirely true, but yes, it certainly was a draw. There's no question about it. I could say when they tore the Ideal Theater down, that was the beginning of the downfall. Now,
Okay.
that's not necessarily true, but let's not leave out the Ideal Theater.
Okay.
It's
We're dating ourselves, but I remember when you could buy anything you wanted on Main Street. And
you did buy anything you
Yes,
wanted.
you'd walk there or you'd drive there and you'd had a choice of a dozen restaurants and banks and things like that.
Now,
and-
speaking of 89,
Yes,
back when what used to be cobblestones
yes, the first one there.
left, I was working closely with the FDIC. I negotiated the lease for the next restaurant that moved in. The FDIC wanted to just junk the building and forget about it. And I convinced them that, look, it's set up for a restaurant downstairs. The best use of that building right now would be to try to negotiate a lease for somebody to open up another restaurant down there. And I negotiated that lease with people who opened up what you may remember, one flight down.
Right.
And they were success. I'm not sure what happened, but they were successful for a while. No
Well-
parking. They knew that, but people still go there.
Well, parking's always an issue.
Parking's an issue
On any
downtown.
main street in an
Right.
area, unless you want to build an ugly 3 or 4 story concrete block parking garage a block behind the downtown, which Marlboro has actually.
They do. And that works out very well for them, by the way.
Right, but unless you want to build something like that, Parking's always an issue.
Look, it's an issue even at the big stores. Go to Natick Mall on a weekend.
Well, there's not enough parking.
Try to find a parking space where you don't have to walk, you know, a quarter mile from where you parked. Now, there are spaces, but who knows where you're going to have to park.
The only shopping plaza in town that has enough open spaces is the Kmart Plaza, and I'm saying that facetiously because Kmart is closed.
Which is an interesting question. You know, what's going to go in there, and how can we motivate? How can somebody be motivated to, you know, reopen or?
Well, the company that owns it, the New York real estate company that owns it, just got turned down. They wanted an 80 to 100-foot high sign that could be seen from 495 all the way in Franklin.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the zoning board said, no, that's not Milford.
I am adamantly opposed to that kind of signage in this town, or a lot of types of signage in this town. Over the years, on my years on the zoning board, I have fought hard to maintain a logical, orderly system of signage in this town. There are areas that look like a sign farm. That does not attract businesses. That does not attract customers to your store.
Right. Signage is always.
We had a comprehensive plan done. The town did.
Right.
Back in, I think it was '03. In a couple of areas, and in the conclusion of that report, it states that. Now, this was not done by a Milford committee. This was done by UMass people who know what they're talking about.
Right.
Now, committees and boards in Milford were interviewed for their input, but the final comprehensive plan was prepared by UMass people. They indicated, look, the signage in the downtown area, it's random and cluttered. It's all over the place. You got signs sticking out, right angles from stores. You got flat against the stores. It's a cluttered mess. Clean it up. Make it comfortable for people to come downtown, walk around, meander, go into the different stores, if you want to talk about signage.
Mm.
Well, today you have signs up for businesses that haven't been there in 10 years. So
You have signs that are non-conforming to our zoning regulations in terms of area, height, that nobody really is aware of because no one has really brought them to anybody's attention.
Nobody's enforced it.
Now, I'm not saying that they would not be enforced if somebody brought it to their attention, but it's difficult for someone to drive by a store and say, wait a minute, that sign exceeds the square footage allowed for that store frontage on this street. You just can't see that just driving by and looking at it.
right, you'd also have to know what law was in place when that sign went up.
You would have to know that. You would have to know what law is in place now. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a great, as far as I'm concerned, we have a terrific zoning enforcement department, and they do a good job, but they can only do so much. They need some help. We need more restrictive zoning bylaws with respect to signage and other things, but not so much as to have a negative effect on the businesses. If it's done right, businesses will flourish in this town.
Okay.
Is there anything, any other issues on this that you'd like to bring up?
Only that I feel that I am the best person for the job. I am a logical thinker. I have a tremendous amount of common sense. I'm detail-oriented, and I am committed. I'm committed. If I take on a job, I commit myself to that job. Mr. Rudden will tell you, in the 20 years I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals, for the first 16 years, perfect attendance record. In my opinion, I don't care how good a committee member you are, how bright you are, or how much you know. If you don't show up, in my book, you're no good.
Mm.
Actually, you did something in one of those meetings I still marvel over. You noticed that the date on a plan before the zoning board was dated the day after the hearing was taking place. So in effect, the plan didn't exist, and you brought that to everyone's attention. I don't think people look at details like that.
My fellow board members, no disrespect intended, were set to approve that. And I said, wait a minute, we cannot approve a plan
that doesn't exist.
that is post-dated. Who knows what else is going to go on that plan when they leave here?
It literally was dated the day after
In
the
any
hearing
case,
was
though,
taking place.
I have nothing but good things to say about my fellow board members back then. Okay?
No,
They
but
did a
it
good
says
job.
you do pay attention to
It
detail.
shows, it goes to my detail orientation in my understanding of plans and how things work, and also, and almost as important, maybe as important, to my education formally, I am very streetwise. I have a good sense for when people are trying to pull one over on me. Grew up that way, and I understand that. And that, as Mr. Rudden has said, was evidenced not only that time, but on several occasions while I was on the board. I brought it to my fellow board members' attention. Wait a minute. I know what they're saying. I know what's written here, but look, this is wrong. And here's the other thing. I'm not afraid to speak up. Been accused of a lot of things, but never of being shy. I cannot be intimidated. I will not roll over for anybody. I will not drink the Kool-Aid.
Do you think the town meeting members drink the Kool-Aid too often?
At the last town meeting last year, I tried to convince my board members on one of the articles not to just swallow this like a pill. A lot of times when I speak at town meeting, I know in the back of my mind, look, I'm probably not going to convince people to go along with what I'm saying, but at the very least, I'll get them thinking. So they won't just sit there, and once again, with all due respect to the town meeting members, I don't want them to sit there and just say, yay, yay, raise their hand, yay.
You do tend to speak out rather frequently on the larger issues. You're one or two or three people that get up on major issues and talk about them.
Someone has to. Once again, not afraid to speak, not afraid to oppose something that I feel is not in the best interest of who? The taxpayers of Milford, not special interest groups. I am not aligned with any special interest group. I have no allegiance to any individual, including the current Board of Selectmen. I am my own person. I will listen to everything anybody has to say, but I will make up my own mind and I will stick by it, and you can't make me sway if I'm committed to that decision.
What if I have a compelling argument that you agree with?
Then I'm with you all the way.
To change your mind?
If it's a compelling argument that I agree with, I will fight with you. I will stand by your side and fight with you for it.
So you don't intend to vote no just for the sake of voting no?
Absolutely not. I never have, never will. Never have and never will.
What do you think a Brian Murray, Bill Buckley, Mike Visconti board would look like?
Well, once again, as I said earlier in the program, I believe I will add a balance to that board. I am a conservative spender. I won't just sign on to every spending issue that comes down the road because we have the money. I don't care if we have the money. Hey, I have $10. That doesn't mean I'm going to give you $5 to go buy coffee and donuts.
Oh, shoot, I was hoping for that.
I didn't say, you, okay, not him.